Hello, it's Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us here in Bangkok, Thailand, and sometimes very hot and sweaty and chaotic Bangkok. A place that's probably not as chaotic as what's going to be near the Homeland in the next couple of weeks. No hat today. There's no sunshine anywhere on the planet. All of you watching, whether it's from the comfort of a developed nation like Australia or a place closer to Iran like Armenia, must prepare for the worst conflict this planet has seen since World War II. Not just a war, but a total breakdown of the economic system, or even worse if nukes are used. Now, I should make this perfectly clear that I'm not in favour of the US, Russia, or any power games with our children's future. I support the Armenian people, but I must speak out because Iran is Armenia's neighbour and it could be badly affected by any conflict, even if only from an influx of refugees. I should also make it absolutely clear that criticism of Israel's genocidal acts and warmongering is not anti-Semitic. In fact, as Palestinians are indigenous to the Levant, attacking them is an anti-Semitic act. Today, the world witnessed the start of a regional and perhaps global war. I predicted this apocalypse weeks ago because I can see not just the Gulf states being turned to ash for supporting the Zionists, but also Azerbaijan, if that country has in any way aided the Americans. I believe that there's a reason why Russian forces have been melting away at some of the Ukrainian frontline positions, and that's because they might be used to aid Iran in any ground attack. You could put two and two together. Earlier in February, I met one of Armenia's ambassadors. I won't say which one, to urge the Armenian government not to get involved in this war, to stay neutral. I know that the Armenian Defence Minister went to Iran in the past week, so I do hope the Iranians realise that Armenia won't let its soil or airspace be used for any attack against our neighbour. This will not be a short-lived conflict in my view. This is a fight to the death, and the Iranian people will be far more likely to prevail given the rally around the flag effect, despite what some in the Iranian diaspora would have you believe. And they are fighting from home. They have short supply lines and an almost unlimited supply of drones and missiles. But the US has the opposite situation. We all know that the one with logistics issues will be the one that is likely to lose. Of course, I'm sure there will be surprises on both sides, including the damage that the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Force of over 100,000 fighters, who signed martyr forms, will do to the US interests. But the biggest surprise may be the man-made earthquake somewhere in Iran as it takes the final step. Then what will Israel do? Yet for decades we've been told to treat Muslims as the bad guys. I see yesterday that Pakistan has basically declared war on Afghanistan. So that's yet another conflict in Asia. All of this instability can be traced back to intervention and meddling by Western forces, especially the British from the time of their empire and the Americans post-World War II. We can now see that an Islamophobic campaign has been run since the creation of Israel in 1948 to make us believe that Muslim countries are the nests of bad guys ready to harm us all. We now know, thanks to the Epstein revelations, that the Zionist lobby has controlled politicians through blackmail and corruption. Look at the horrors that Trump is alleged to have committed. The media and universities that are owned by Zionists have tried to silence dissent against the genocide of Palestinians to support Israel's war crimes. Even financial institutions like JP Morgan Bank have been complicit in supporting Israel, which is hardly surprising given that the same bank was involved in the transfer of money and gold stolen from Armenians by Turks during the genocide in World War I. Speaking of Turks, the Epstein files have uncovered very disturbing crimes involving the alleged trafficking of thousands of children from Turkey to Epstein. The files mention former Turkish Foreign Minister Davutoglu and current US Ambassador Tom Barrack. So now we can figure out why Erdogan has stated that he's against Israel's genocide, but has failed to halt oil transshipments from Azerbaijan to Israel. Coming back to the vilification of Muslims, it's been widely reported that Israel has been using the United States to subjugate its Muslim neighbors through constant wars and destabilizing activities. Jewish professor Jeffrey Sachs explains what the Zionists planned.
There was regime change in Syria. What does it mean?
Wesley Clark, the general who headed NATO,
Yes.
went to the Pentagon just after 9/11, and famously he was showed a piece of paper that said we're going to have 7 wars in 5 years, and he was completely dumbfounded. He said, what does this have to do with anything?
This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
He was told that the neocons and the Israelis are going to remake the Middle East. 7 countries. We've been at war in 6 of them now. And I mean we, the United States, on behalf of Israel, including in Syria. And so what happened in Syria last week was the culmination of a long-term effort by Israel to reshape the Middle East in its image.
Now, let's consider these videos to explain why Zionists were very happy with the 9/11 attack, as it helped motivate Americans to attack Afghanistan and Iraq, further vilifying Muslims. But people are asking if the missing Epstein files might indicate if Israel's Mossad were really behind 9/11. It also appears that key Jewish financiers such as Silverstein and US Secretary of Commerce Lutnick enriched themselves after the tragedy.
I had the pleasure of working pretty much with every prime minister of Israel, from Yitzhak Shamir forward. I said to myself, wouldn't it be fantastic if I could own the Twin Towers? We got very, very lucky. The governor of New York, George Pataki, decided one day that maybe it would be good to privatize the ownership of the World Trade Center. So I got a call from the governor's office, and they said, would you ever consider owning the World Trade Center? It was very, very good for the family, very good for us, and we were very, very fortunate. On the morning of 9/11, I'm getting ready, getting dressed to go to the dermatologist. I have light-colored hair, light skin. The sun is a disaster for me. I can't take the sun. She said, okay, but you're going to the dermatologist, you're going this morning, and you're not going downtown. We got very, very lucky.
Center. The head of Cantor Fitzgerald, Harold Lutnick, just happened to be out of the office that day that the terrorists struck.
Well, I'm an architect of 20 years, a member of the American Institute of Architects, and have been studying steel-frame, fireproof buildings for about that long.
We ask that for clarification because as we get into this, we want people to make sure that you're not just somebody with a wacky idea.
Right.
Okay? You come with some science to you. What is the official reason for the collapse of the World Trade Center towers?
Well, we're told that the planes hit the buildings and there was an explosion and a fire, and about an hour and a half later, in the case of the North Tower, the buildings collapsed due to structural weakening due to the fires. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we don't have large gradual deformations associated with collapses, and fires in high-rises have never brought down a steel frame high-rise building at all, ever. And what we have, unfortunately, is the evidence in the Twin Towers and the third skyscraper to collapse that day, which most people don't know anything about it. We have the evidence of the 10 key features of controlled demolition. In the case of Building 7, it collapses straight down into its own footprint at free fall speed in the first 100 feet. It's dropping, as you can see, symmetrically, smoothly, at free fall speed in the first 100 feet, 2.5 seconds. This is uncanny. There's 40,000 tons of structural steel designed to resist this collapse.
Is it, what, a 47-story building?
Yeah, this is called Building 7, right a football field away from the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we're showing is left what happened. In fact, right is a controlled where you are using, or the people who made this happen, used demolition.
Indeed, and this is a direct comparison. And you can see that, indeed, almost free fall speed, free fall acceleration through 40,000 tons of structural steel. That is uncanny. So we have 700 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation as a result of this evidence and the evidence in the World Trade Center that is very explosive. Almost every architect and engineer we show this information to agrees with us that these are controlled demolitions.
The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
So there it is. We may be stuck in Singapore from tomorrow, praying for my wife's people to be unscathed and for some way to return if these hostilities end. This is a madness brought upon this planet by the satanic Epstein class led by Netanyahu and the Rothschild family, and it could very well end in nuclear attacks that harm billions. All of this because the world's greatest mistake was to allow a group of Zionist refugees from Europe to come to Palestine after the Holocaust so they could perpetrate their satanic cult of Baal's oppression on others. They learned nothing from their own suffering and now seek to destroy us all. My final message is for the Western politicians like our shameful Australian Prime Minister Albanese and the evil Ursula von der Leyen of the EU. You chose to ignore the obvious evils being perpetrated by Israel because you think our so-called friends can do no wrong. You will burn in hell like all of those who have endangered this precious earth by not speaking the truth and trembling like a coward in front of the Zionist lobby. This is Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland. Please like, share and subscribe.